Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Jug Show. Told you I was going to get to more than one this week. But I'm going to be changing a few things up this time. See, while The Jug Show has usually been about talking certain comics, mainly coming from the Marvel Company, as well as the occasional movie and occasional game, this one is going to be less of a breakdown of a comic book issue and more of a focus on the meanings of a particular run, as well as the writing style of its writer, as well as what the artist has been trying to depict. This episode is still going to be the Jug Show. It's not going to be like Jug Breaks, like a Jug Rex or anything like that. I'm just trying to up things a little bit more. So today we're going to be talking about the latest Storm, not just the latest Storm series, the entire Storm series written by Murewa Ayodele. I've had him on the show before. The guy is a great guy to talk to, both in person and online, and I want to talk about why he actually is a great writer, not just for Storm, but for the other characters he's written for, including Iron Man in the I Am Iron Man series, as well as his Akogon series, The Brutalizer of Gods. I want to talk about also why the particular book Storm, as well as Rogue Storm and Storm's Earth's Mightiest Mutant, has been very good for her character, not just because of the power level, but because of the in-depth writing of her on an emotional scale. And I think that's where I really am going to put a lot of focus on. So that's going to be our main focus. With the release of the fourth issue of Storm, Earth's Mightiest Mutants this week, that particular book has had the standout moment of this week's releases when it comes to Marvel Comics. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to make this particular episode. Another reason why is because I'm going to do a full proper breakdown when the fifth and final issue comes out next month. And so that's what I'm going to be saying for. So I'm going to be doing a lot of catching up when it comes to the rest of the books, which I have read, but I want to get a refresher on the mind. So I'm going to make the focus about what I actually do want to talk about when it comes to Storm and this particular run for the character. Because I've seen a lot of people I feel are missing a few points, both people that don't like the book and people who do like the book. I don't mean that as a massive criticism, but I feel like they're missing a few things that are worth talking about that I think do really need to be talked about when it comes to the particular character. The reason why I think this has been a very good run for the character is because Storm is a very emotional character. She is an epitome of emotion. And she's been very unique in that aspect. But it's never been really that shown. Many times throughout her publication, she's been more, especially since, say, I think probably about the 90s, she has been more about how powerful she is. And the main source of growth has actually been the development of her powers, the meaning of what it is to not only just control the weather, but control the energies that manipulate the weather. So there's been a lot of development of that. There was Hudlin, there was Ta-Nehisi Coates. Yeah, it was Hudlin, wasn't it? Yeah, Hudlin. Especially when it came to Hudlin in the Black Panther, including Storm. When it came to Ta-Nehisi Coates, when it came to Storm. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not including X-Men Red. I'm not. I don't think that was actually a good exploration when it came to... I don't think that was one of Storm's best explorations as a character, if I'm being very honest. So when the fact that X-Men Red was followed by Storm, written by Murewa Ayodele, I was pleasantly surprised. I was filled with joy when I saw that we were also getting into a bigger exploration of a sense of emotional reactions from the character. I just really wasn't feeling that from Red, but I'm feeling it from Storm. I'm feeling that she wants to do things I feel like we're getting an idea of what she wants to do for the world, what she wants to do for herself, how she reacts to things getting in her way, getting upset at things that are worth getting upset by, having these moments of crying, having these moments of fun. She actually feels like a person in this comic. And I hadn't seen, like, during the Krakoan era, it felt like she was a powerful person, and then we're leaving it at that. But during the Ta-Nehisi Coates run of Black Panther, there were moments where, well, yes, she was being the powerful person again, but she was enjoying herself. She was being, I don't want to say, she felt like a character. She was having moments of debating. She was saying she has moments of uncertainty. She had moments of when she was just being. She had moments of being a person, but we were also expanding her powers as not her powers, no powers, but kind of expanding her divinity. A lot of things goes into Storm, and when expanding upon it, some writers kind of forget certain aspects. I felt like that was happening with Red, but reading Ta-Nehisi's work as well in both parts, because for some reason I'm only thinking of the second part, she felt like you got the understanding that this is a person that really enjoys her freedom. She likes doing what she likes to do. She just enjoys feeling the wind in her hair type of deal. We got a lot more expression out of her. Hudlin, he expanded her on a familial level, because when was the last time we even talked about her grandparents on her father's side? That's kind of expansions that I feel like does more for her character. And Red expanded, sure, power of parts of her power, but I feel like it missed a lot of aspects of her character. I'm not going to get too much into Red, because I don't want people coming at me about that. And as well as I don't want to just focus on this massive negativity I have on this particular comic, I want to focus on the positivity of Murewa's run. I feel Murewa nailed what made Storm special. Because unlike a lot of writers that I'm noticing, Murewa is a very emotional writer. It feels like he likes writing emotion. He knows humans are very emotional beings. We have bad and good reactions to things. When he writes falling in love with a person, it doesn't feel like a gimmick. Because sometimes when I'm reading comics, it feels like this character falls for this character because the writer just wants to give a love interest. With Murewa, it actually feels, you actually can feel the character falling in love. You feel the character getting angry. You feel the character feeling overwhelmed and upset. He writes emotion very well. One of the critiques of the book, that when he's writing the book as well, this is where the artist comes in. This is something I want to talk about. This is where the artist comes in and why this helps the artist stand out. When it came to certain parts of the book, I can't remember him writing many thought bubbles, but the fact that he's not writing thought bubbles in certain situations, I felt was actually a good thing. Because the fact is, life doesn't exactly have thought bubbles. And when she's having these moments of being emotional, or when she's trying to hide it, but you see small giveaways, right? That's very human. It feels Murewa is actually able to understand how humans work on the mind and the heart level, and he's able to bring that into the comics. And I don't know another character that better do that than Storm, because Storm constantly puts up a powerful front, but she is just as emotional as anybody, probably even more so. So it's been very fascinating seeing that, as well as very fascinating seeing that through her powers. Fascinating how all these other powerful beings coming at her, reactions to things. Like, there are moments where it feels like she does something not out of character. She makes a mistake. Like when Thor offered her his services, she turns that down. She doesn't turn that down because she feels she's powerful enough. She turns it down because the fact is, it's a character flaw. That she feels like she has to do everything on her own. In fact, this was actually shown as a bit of a character. What's the word? It's a trait, but it's one of the better parts. like I said, back in X-Men Red, when Uranos offered his services, she turned it down because she felt like it's her responsibility to end this war. Now, I feel like we should have actually talked about a whole other slew of issues when it comes to letting out Uranos, of all people. But I like the fact he shows that it's also a bit of a character flaw, that she won't, despite the fact that she's a part of a team, in fact, that she will rather try and take things on alone. Not because she feels like it's powerful, but she has this sense of responsibility to the world. And maybe because a bit of like she feels like she should be able to take it on. I mean, if you have that much power, I mean, I feel like you would kind of have that kind of feeling. I mean, that makes a little bit of sense. What was interesting about the current run, even though it's a mini, it does have its moments of fascination about how Storm is reacting to all these things. How in the first issue, this is the thing, okay? I remember in the first issue, she was, what was the word? She was invited to Susanoo, a god of, I believe, a storm god. I think he's also a war god in the Japanese pantheon. And because of his dishonor by siding with Hadad during the Thunder Wars, he has to commit harakiri or seppuku, one of the ones, I can't remember what it's called exactly. And he's committing suicide for the sake of honor, and Storm is chosen to be the witness. But because Storm doesn't like the idea of like people giving life, like losing their life, so you know what? Yeah, wastefully, because the fact is, giving your life for a sense of honor, that's a waste. And in fact, I feel like what he's doing is actually dishonorable. I feel like that should actually come up in the story. The fact that by making her the witness is a dishonorable act. So I feel like committing the suicide is like it's a null point. He's going to die dishonorably because he knows for a fact that Storm wouldn't be able to handle that. So she will stop it. She stuck by her convictions, and there were fair convictions in this case. And because of that, we are now dealing with the bigger problems of all of it. So the idea of conviction, of your personal convictions, but the fact is, she's not going to let a person waste a life. I feel like she does understand the idea of like a life needed to be or like allowing a person to die, but I don't think suicide would ever fly when it comes to Storm. Like, if a person feels like that they are at the end of their life and they want to pass to the other world, into the next, I feel like she would allow that because that's just natural progression. But she would do her absolute best to keep someone from killing themselves. Maybe, the only time that comes to mind was during the Krakoan era of where she fought Callisto in the Crucible, and that was a whole other deal. And I feel like that we should have done a bit more with that, but they didn't. And there was it's a whole thing. But it is really focusing on why Storm is a lot more special, about how life means to her. I've got my own forms of death philosophy that, quite frankly, I would enjoy talking about with Storm. And in fact, I've been watching a lot of shows, I've been looking at a lot of things, and they've actually had other types of philosophy that I actually thought was very interesting, like the idea that none of us asked to be in this world. So the idea of taking your own life is actually something that's well within your right, because your life is so yours. Do I 100% agree with that? No, not exactly. But when I was hearing it, I thought it was definitely a fascinating bit of philosophy that would be immature to ignore. So, this is why I think this is also definitely a very special issue. This is a special run. It is very philosophical. It's not just metaphorical. It's philosophical. It really shows what this character has gone through, what she can still go through, what she's able to take. And one of the reasons I'm hoping that it gets a continuation with Mirewa is simply because I feel like there's more story to tell, more things that she needs to talk about and get off her chest. I feel like there's more that we can actually do, more emotions to show. And I feel like a lot of this is also coming out in the latest issue. This panel here, I've actually talked to Mirewa briefly about this issue because I felt it was actually a really incredible moment where Storm is fighting the being Nadir. Well, yeah, I'm still not exactly sure what Nadir actually is here. If she's a higher being or if she's just a version of Nadir, I'm not exactly sure. And how she's using her powers. This is like next level meta. But when it comes to meta, I believe you need emotion. I've read a lot of writers doing meta work, but it's meta for the sake of being meta. It's saying there is a higher plane, as in there's realistic things, like there's the real world and the fictional world, and this is kind of the point between it. But I feel personally that when you're writing meta stuff, you need more emotion into it. It can't just be point A, point B, and here's the middle. It has to be emotional because this is art. Comic books is art and storytelling. If you don't, and you need emotion to be able to tell stories, to show these characters, to draw these characters, to push them into these types of situations. And I'm seeing a lot of that here, not just from Mirewa, but by the artists that has actually worked on all these different books. In this particular case, Federica Manson. I feel like there is a lot of emotion. There's a lot of power in this. There's a lot of anger and pushing back. And like, I felt like that was amazing. You're really feeling it. You're really feeling not just a clash of like these two powerful characters. You're dealing with clash of philosophy and convictions. When I spoke with him, he said that a lot of moments from comics passed through his mind during this particular panel, and how it felt like it was an argument between the DC, like almost like how DC reboots every now and again, and Marvel is still a continuous story. And you can definitely see that. And both do actually have merits, because sometimes when it comes to DC, it's like with how DC reboots. Sometimes you do kind of want that reboot. You want a second chance. But with Marvel, the story feels so continuous, and you feel that with some of your favorite characters, there's still stories to be told. I feel that. But some of my favorite arguments from this particular moment is, for starters, the idea of like how ending it and restarting it isn't giving up. It's actually a form of wisdom, because you could actually create maybe something better. You protect all your IPs and you actually keep going. And then, but you also have a Storm rebooting, saying, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if we have to do this or this? And like my favorite one is definitely when she's saying, what if we recreate it wrongly? Even if you forget the meta about it, what actually is interesting about that is how it followed with talking about Secret Wars and how the Fantastic Four and Franklin restarted the multiverse of Marvel, and how where was my point again? Right, it actually did get recreated kind of wrongly. This was confirmed in Jed McKay's Avengers, and how Reed and Franklin, I'm including Franklin because he actually made the universe, he made the universes, how they included the moment. The moment. It was a reset button basically on the entire universe. What if they recreate it and they put it to that? So that's actually a very fair argument on Storm's part. What if they actually do something that's actually going to cause problem? It's pretty much the same as time travel. Like, you go back in time, you step on a butterfly, even that one little tiny, almost insignificant little change, it could lead to God knows what. But the fact that this is a massive clash of these emotional moments, even in these like what it actually feels like is what the reader actually experiences when they read the comic and they actually argue about it, they debate it. The actual feelings of how a reader will actually react to a comic book, whether they like it or hate it. That's why I like the fan mail basically between them, because that's what happens. These books are the emotion of a writer and an artist putting it all down on paper. The emotion of the readers is how they get enveloped into the books, how they see their favorite characters being treated, how they're not being treated, if they're doing something of the same that they've seen again and again and again. And it's a great way to show the actual meta of storytelling. This is why I think Murewa is very special, because, like I've said, meta by other writers has always felt like they're trying to talk about how this is fiction and this is reality, and what reality will mean to fiction. But it always felt so logical and scientific almost. Like it's still too much in the fiction, and they're talking about this as a real world. It doesn't feel like how you should feel when it comes to talking about how the real world feels to the comic, how the process of creating the artwork, the actual comic, would feel to a person that's actually creating it, as well as to the actual character. I feel like that's important to include, because that's the whole deal. If you don't have that emotion, if you don't put down I feel like if a writer and an artist isn't putting down how they feel, how it feels to be this person, to create what emotions they're trying to get out of this, what it feels like to actually be the creator, then all you're doing, I feel, is that you're trying to recreate the idea that you're the voice of God. And I don't think that's best, because the writer isn't a god. He's a writer. He's putting his own emotions, his own ideas and feelings down on this, and how this character would be feeling and reacting. So the inclusion of the fan mail, trying to get the idea of the readers, is a great way to show this. That storytelling is a very emotional process, and that we will argue, we will debate, we will interpret all these different things all about this. I've seen writers trying to do that, to show how this character will react with the fact that you live in a fictional universe. It's always been about the character now having almost a sense of newfound power, or like newfound understanding of how the universe works. It's never been about the actual emotion of the creation, the very inception of the one above all. And because it was Mark Waid's Fantastic Four, and I felt like that was a very good show of emotion as a creator. He enjoys his work. He wants to put more down there, what his work means, what he wants to put out in the world, what he wants his stories to represent, what he wants to bring in, what he wants people to feel from it. I don't really feel that much from I didn't really feel that way from the Defenders, really. That felt like just a character meeting a version of God that will tell them to. They're just like, it's just, what's the word I was looking for? I had it there for a second. Like there's just more to all of this. It almost felt like he was explaining there's another world above. It didn't feel like he was putting the emotions of what these creations meant to him. And I'm loving seeing that in this particular book, because the fact is, we have Storm being like, she's taking on a massive power here, and she's reaching the end of her limit. She's being beaten. She's God knows what the hell would feel like to being brought down to your ultimate meta form, and then pushed through all these different omniverses. So like all these different, not universes of Marvel, but all these different fictional worlds of different stories from any of the ones that are on behind me here. back to their own cluster of the multiverse. That would have put her through a lot. And the thing is, we don't know how she's actually reacted to that. It's like we go straight from that straight to her being gone full Mad Max for a moment, going straight, like I said, full Mad Max, trying to save her from all these weird ass Sentinels. This is one of the reasons why I'm just making this kind of breakdown. I feel like we don't have enough of the story to keep going for me to do a proper breakdown for that. So we're going to get there, but we're going to stay on here for a minute. In fact, just a little bit more. Just a little bit minute more. It's why I find it so fascinating. It feels like... This is why I like Murewa's work. You can feel that he's putting his heart and his emotions. Like, he views these characters as actual people. And I don't know Murewa too well as a person. Like, I don't have daily conversations with him over drinks at the pub. So I'm not saying he's my best friend. No, I'm not. But it feels like he's an actual emotional guy that really does understand these type of things and understand these characters will feel these type of things. And he will actually, and he knows readers will feel things. And he's putting all that down on his pages, not just in this one, but even in his Iron Man book and his other comics, which are very great reads. Because, in fact, if you read his Iron Man, a lot of the Iron Man stories recently have been focusing on, like... Seriously, it starts the same way. How many times now? How many times has he lost his company now? Why? Is that only... His story focused on how Tony is in the moment, in all these different moments. Things that meant a lot to him. Things that he feels like he needs to do better. Things he has to contend with in his own mind. I haven't read... I don't think I've read a Iron Man story like that since. It's a very unique take on the character by taking everything that he's felt and experienced and showing all these different ways of, like, showing that this is actually a guy under the armor. That he's not just trying to take on a guy, he's actually being affected by everything around him, like Storm is, like in Kogan, how this guy's being berated, like beaten down by gods. So this is one of the reasons I think that Murewa is actually a very good writer. I think people are missing this point. It's not just about powerful moments. It's not about the fact she's able to beat down Haddad. It's how I found that the moment after that, when Eternity killed Haddad and how Storm reacted to that, was the more important moment that Storm just beating Haddad. The idea of how powerful she is really feels like it's taking it's taken a step back. It's not important to the story. It's who this character is as a person that's important. And I feel like we don't get a lot of those kinds of writers these days. A lot of writers feel like they want to try and create a spectacle. They want to focus on singular parts of the character. But I'm feeling everything from this one. And I'm loving it. And I'm hoping to see the Murewa continues with Storm, because it's still in the maybes at the moment. It's unlikely, but it's still in the maybes. And if not, I hope to see him on another IP. Hell, he's still one of the top ones I've gotten for the Fantastic Four. I would like him to take the run for Iron Man after I am Iron Man. Oh, who else would I like? Give him his own Black Panther run. Give him a Black Cat run, because if he... Oh wait, that joke was in the last video. Anyway, this has definitely been a very good run for the Storm character, because it focuses more on who she is as a person, not just this powerful being, not just this... Let me turn my light on. Looking like I was trying to tell you a horror story there for a second. So, let's wrap this up. It is a very not interesting take on the character. It's a great take on the character. It shows that she's more than just the power, just more than just the divinity. It's really kind of more showing the consequences of what it means to be this powerful and be this divine. And I'm loving how he's actually expressing that, how much she's going through, and how she's not just powering through it, or how powering through it is actually causing her pain and problems. So I really feel like that Murewa is a phenomenal writer, and he knows exactly what he's doing when he's talking meta, because he's putting his emotions into it and knowing that this is an emotional, what's the word? This is actually a very emotional medium. This is storytelling. It invokes emotions. This is what it's supposed to do. And he's showing in a very meta way that it is what he's trying to do. He's doing what he is supposed to do for comic book talking about. Because I've done these kind of conversations. I've said these types of things, like you've seen on the fan mail type of stuff. And I really am looking forward to seeing what he does next. So I hope you've been enjoying the books. I will do a proper breakdown of Storm, Earth's Mightiest Mutant, after the 5th issue comes out. I'm going to do a full breakdown of all 5 issues and what I feel they actually mean to the individual character. And hopefully, maybe what I could actually hope to see in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this particular episode of The Jug Show, trying to do new ideas of how I'm going to do the show, of how I'm going to try just explaining single characters, how I feel about writers, and even artists, and I feel just, basic feelings and opinions, basically. This is my show. I get to do whatever the hell I want. And I'm hoping that's what you're seeing when it comes to the joke show, to the Storm comic. I hope maybe if it wasn't, I hope this is going to make you go back and reread it, and maybe through a whole new lens. And I hope you guys enjoy talking comics. I'll see you guys later.